What is up, guys? Have a cool video for you today. I've decided to help, or she's asked me, Tiffany has asked me to help her with her programming. If you don't know Tiffany, she is a very newly turned IFBB pro, wellness pro. If you're not familiar with wellness, really the way the division works, conditioning is very similar to what you're gonna see in like bikini, so they want the girls very lean. But they really want what some people would consider disproportionate physiques with basically no limit to the size of lower body. So glutes, quads, hamstrings, calves, kind of in that order. And they still want a good level of muscularity with upper body as well too, but really staggered imbalance, like very lower body dominant compared to upper body. So that is the design of the program that I'm trying to put together for. And what I figured I would show you guys is what it kind of actually looks like when I'm putting together a program for someone, like a real person. Like, this is the funny thing, a lot of people like to talk about, well, what makes sense on paper and this and that. And I don't think they really talk about what it actually looks like when working with a person. So the things that I actually consider with what are her favorite exercises, how does she like to train, and obviously match that with realistically, what do I think is something that's gonna produce great results, what she can recover from, and again, balancing the two. There could be a point where, again, I joke, she's young, loves training right now, and so she needs to enjoy her workout, she needs to have fun. That is honestly very, very important, and balancing that again with what's gonna produce results for her to be the best pro that she can possibly be. And so you'll see some of the discussion we have, and the nice thing that I have as well too is she trains in my gym, so most importantly, I can see the way that she's doing things, I can see the way that she's progressing or not progressing, and I'm gonna adjust her program as we go along. So if you're watching this, her program is actually in full on my app. I've made some changes since what is posted in this video to kind of finalize it, and then obviously figure out volume and stuff as we go along. But this is kind of really literally the first time that I actually sat and talked about it with her, talked about what she had done before. You know, she'd really flirted a whole lot with overtraining, especially really not even giving herself a whole lot of off days at all, training sometimes the same muscle group 2 days back to back, and even training things every other day can be a little bit tough. But if you're training with some reps in reserve, maybe a little bit of short of failure, then you can tend to get away with it maybe a little bit. And so that's the balance you're gonna see with this program is, again, what do I think works very well for what she wants to do from a physique standpoint? What does she enjoy? What's fun? And even talking with what are her favorite movements? What are the movements she likes to do the best, has the best results with feel, progression, ability to perform well on, and kind of taking that all in and getting a very good starting point. And then again, from there, we have a baseline volume that we kind of started with on the program, and that's something I adjust as we go. I'm always an advocate for me, and what I coach the best on is as little volume as possible to progress, you know, over time. And it should make sense that if someone can go from doing barbell thrusts for 2 sets of 10 with 225 to 2 sets of 10 with 405, the glutes are gonna get bigger. And so I find a much stronger correlation with what are you able to do within a set, one, in the intensity performance again within a set, compared to what are we able to do or progress with volume. And again, some people do like to undulate or progress volume over time, which again, if you can coach it and produce good results with it, great. But personally, I tend to try and keep volume low, low, low all the time, and very rarely manipulate things a whole lot. So here's a fly on the wall view of me putting together her program. If you guys are interested in this program at all, like all the programs I put together for pros, it is on my app. And I'll have a link down below for that as well too. If you guys can always try the app free for 7 days, try all the programs on there, see what it's all about. But anyway, if nothing else, I hope you guys enjoy kind of seeing how do I actually put these things together when actually coaching people, as opposed to just talking all theory and no practice. Enjoy, guys. Sign on for this video. Tiffany's gonna talk the whole time. Go.
What? No, I'm not talking all the time.
Tell us the first thing you thought about Terrence. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You know, this is not about Terrence. For once, finally, a video not about Terrence.
Yeah.
So
something different.
More times than any other word in this video.
Yeah, exactly. But so for context of this video, maybe I'll do a formal setup at some point in time, but looking to potentially adopt a new training split. And so context for where I'm coming from is I want to say, well, what was the previous split we're going to look at? What were the results from that previous split? And then taking some of that today. So this is the first time I'm looking at it, and then I'll have some just real rough general ideas with what I think will make sense, how Tiffany wants to train, balancing what she wants and what will produce the best results, and just obviously what will happen balancing those two things. And so, like I said, then honestly, I'll probably write some stuff down on the board just to have some really just kind of the first ideas that come to my brain. And then I might think about it and change it over the next 24 hours. And then the most important part is she'll start doing the program, and then we'll get feedback daily, weekly for a while to see how is it feeling day to day, how's it going week to week, are we able to see progress and all that, and just adjust things as we go. So previous program, so just so everyone can hear what we were doing, and just to have an idea of what I'm staring at, maybe we won't put this up, but we'll have just so everyone knows. Day 1 is hamstrings and quads, day 2, and so she's wellness. So for anyone not familiar with the wellness category, I think it's fairly safe to say it's the most similar class that people know about. Is it's almost like bikini, except they prefer, basically at this point in time, there's no limit to how big your lower body can be, particularly glutes and quads.
Yeah,
And
it's more like a disproportionate.
Yes.
Like bikini, you still want to have a proportionate and the symmetry and all that, but for wellness, it's like you don't want that. You want to keep your upper body a little bit smaller than the lower body. So lower body is way bigger, and keep that.
And it seems like, not that this matters for this video, but it seems like the conditioning they want about the same, or a little bit more now.
A little bit more now, I think.
It seems like, I think they're figuring it out. So everybody knows with the NPC and IFBB, they just figure shit out as they go along.
Yeah.
And or one judges, they have an idea, and then the next show it shifts and shifts and shifts and shifts, and before you know it, wait, these girls aren't any different conditioning or more conditioning or whatever. So anyway, so the context of the split is we're trying to grow lower body as much as possible, pretty much just maintain upper body with where it's at. And then I joke, when they first introduced wellness, I call wellness what you want your wife to look like program. So I'm all about it, because most guys and lots of wives out there, like this, before this, if we read the programs that I've made for my wife, and she describes how she wants to look, it's like this. So there we go. So again, even if you don't do wellness, if you want huge lower body, you want some muscle on your upper body, but disproportionately smaller, this is gonna be the split for you. So this is where she was at beforehand, and then we'll discuss a balance. So previous split was day 1 was hamstrings and quads, day 2 calves, glutes, delts, day 3 glutes and hamstrings, day 4 calves, glutes, and back, day 5 it's something paired with quads. I'll let you guess. Glutes, glutes and quads. So how did you do off days before? That's my first question looking at this.
Okay, so I would do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I would train, and then Thursday is off, and then Friday, Saturday on, and then Sunday off.
Okay, so it was a 5-day split with 2 days off per week and going in a 7-day. Okay. And how do you how often would you like to train? This isn't a trick question. Just, do you obviously, if you had your way, would you train every single day? Do you actually feel like, when an off day comes, you're like, oh, thank God I need an off day? And then and I'm not asking what you think works best either. Right now I'm asking how you like to train.
I would like to train every day.
Okay, got it. And then what have you found doing this? Does this seem like you're able to progress and recover pretty well? Yeah. And you don't feel like too beat up for the most part?
No.
Okay.
Not even sore.
Not even sore. Okay. So sometimes, and again, I'll have to pay attention to how much this shows the proximity to failure and things, how many sets. So most of these things are done, and I'm doing this at a glance, so I'm not saying that I'm doing the program pretty much justice, but most things are around 4 working sets. Or does that kind of include warm-ups, or is it?
No.
Okay, so 4 working-ish sets of looks like almost everything. And for the most part, when you're doing these, are you doing everything to failure, kind of failure, different day to day?
It's to failure, but I tend to target 8 reps or 8 to 10.
Okay.
But I do reach like maybe close to failure.
Got it.
Yeah, and it depends on what exercise I'm doing too.
Okay. So my first thing looking at this is kind of what I think a lot of people would kind of think, and it's not that it's all inherently like, and I'll honestly mess around with this. So the first thoughts that have come to mind is that, at the end of the day, obviously training is stimulus and recovery. And so it's as much as you might have crazy recovery, and with that being said, we might figure out where you can technically do something almost every single day. But it probably can't, I wouldn't put like traditional training stuff, because sometimes you get to the point where now, who knows where your body's at, where you could be. Obviously, you are still recovering if you're still growing, if you're still progressing, but you could honestly just be kind of constantly inflamed as well too.
That's true.
And sometimes as constantly inflamed, you're just not really getting a whole lot of sensation feedback on anything, period. So it's like things be constantly flamed. Even if it's not local, it could be systemic. And so for that reason, again, I'm still just a little wary of your recovery. And so my thought would be is a bare minimum, and we can mess around with this. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll write some things on the board and we'll look at a couple different options. But if you want to train as frequently as possible, especially for certain body parts, obviously glutes number. So it seems like obviously glutes as much as possible. Then obviously quads and hams are pretty similar on there. Obviously calves can just match that, so we put them in wherever. And then probably, again, we can mess around with some upper body stuff. If you just, again, like to train a lot, have your frequency a little.
To be honest with you, I think I do need more shoulders.
Yeah.
So I would want to do twice a week shoulders.
Okay.
And then back maybe once.
Mm-hmm.
I need to focus more on hamstrings because my quads are like, way. So.
Okay, so we'll keep that in order. So glutes, hamstrings, quads, kind of in that order. Calves for lower body, a little bit more delts for upper, and just kind of maintain everything else back, and then maybe touch on some other stuff. But so if we're gonna have higher frequency, the couple things I'm thinking about, because I'd like to see, let's say hypothetically you're recovering, but you're just barely recovering. Okay. Like if we just do a little bit less of everything, just out of sheer curiosity, I'd like to see what happens. Okay. Like, are you able to progress better? Do you look better? Do you instantly, because if everything's kind of inflamed now, and we give your body a little bit of a chance to kind of relax and actually recover, you might have something where it's like, within like a pretty short period of time, you actually look bigger and leaner without changing a whole lot of stuff, because that's what happens sometimes. I guess. But so we can still try and keep it, and the things I'm thinking, you can keep relatively high frequency of stuff, but you're gonna have some days that are probably gonna be these are your days where things are actually taken closer to or to failure, and then some days where you're not taken to failure. Because in reality, it's like, again, like what are the bouts of how close you can train things together and still recover? I mean, you can train some body parts every other day. I'm not sure every day, or literally every day back to back, but every other day you could probably get away with that. Again, especially if you're doing things sometimes a little bit short of failure. The other thing I was thinking about, if we really want to get creative and keep frequency high, you could have some days where you're training movements that are more kind of through the lengthened and mid-range, which in general could be a little bit more taxing. And then we could have other days where you're doing things a little bit more in the shortened range, which tend to be less recovery taxing. And we could even do things where we mess with your eccentrics a little bit, because if you're doing things, heavy movements like, let's say, squat patterns, deadlift patterns, just aside from how big they are, those are going to train muscle groups in their fully lengthened position. Generally are things done a little bit with slower eccentrics, where if we actually intentionally program things that are more short range thrusts, bridge variations, and even sometimes done under control faster, not as much like these really slow eccentric things, that will generally be less taxing on recovery, and could actually, in some ways, depending on how you're doing them and programming them, help with your recovery. And we can even use tools like fun stuff, like we can do the prowler, we can do things like spin bike, incorporate that in your program as well too, because that can train your lower body. You can actually grow muscle, especially from something like a prowler, but it's also very good for recovery and very low tax on recovery. There's actually not anything that's really necessary from a recovery standpoint. Thoughts on any of that so far? And then what I'm thinking as well too is, so we've got obviously, and this is where we can mess around with things where you have, the things that inherently are probably responsible for the majority of your lower body results, which again are some of those movements that I said about. So we're gonna have squat variations, step up variations, split squat variations, deadlift variations, leg press things, hack things, stuff like that. But I'm not one to throw out the little bit of kind of like isolation stuff. So if we're doing various degrees of abduction, various degrees of adduction, if we're doing some of the band type stuff, I honestly think that can have a place as a smaller part of your programming. So that could be a way that we allow frequency, a little bit more frequency as well too, meaning we're not, every day just doesn't have a deadlift or a squat or a leg press or something that big. We can incorporate some of that smaller stuff to allow you to have some single leg stuff that you like as well too. I think that could all have a place in the programming, and we could just see what we can kind of get away with on frequency a little bit. Does that make sense?
Okay, makes sense, yeah.
And obviously I think we could just try to almost make something line up with our split as well too, because obviously it'd be more convenient if you're in here working out at the same time. And that way you don't have days when we're working out and you're not working out, you just sit in the corner and cry the whole time. Jerks. Especially our lower body day. We'll make sure our leg day is on the same day as your leg day as well too.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Because that would be good.
Yeah.
So those are some of my initial thoughts Maybe I'll write some stuff down just to kind of see what does that kind of look like a little bit in my brain. But thoughts on that? Would it make you sad if you had a day where you're doing just your upper body?
No. It
Okay, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah,
Because that'd be a
fine.
very good day. Just like, because some of that is a way that we could allow you to have a little bit higher frequency still, training more often, not having too many off days. So satisfying the ability to train more, but actually giving you a little bit of recovery. Because obviously, especially with delts, you could just have like a delt day, and then you wouldn't have to. And honestly, the thing is, like, that will always help, like you said, give you that, because every class still, including wellness, still wants that silhouette. You know, that wider up top, narrow, and then really wide at the bottom.
Yeah.
But you're not in danger of your delts overpowering your quads. That's the only thing you really have to balance. Is again, there's this whole upper body to lower body thing. But if we're looking at that one body part, I mean, even if they got significantly bigger up to a point of reason, it's not going to overpower your lower body at all. It'll generally just make your waist look smaller.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be out of the question to have like a delt day. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought maybe like on a Tuesday, I would just incorporate delts. That's it, delts, or delts and calves.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yep.
Simple.
But so I'm initially thinking, and we'll mess around with this, but I'm thinking obviously we could make, just to have frequency high, so we have kind of your heavier days, more like something like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just so they've all got a day in between.
Yeah.
We can mess around with having 2 or 3 more days where some of them might be a little bit upper body with something else. Maybe another day that's kind of like almost like your miscellaneous lower body day, where it's even like I give you a free pass. Like I'll write some stuff around. It's like, if you want to go do some weird shit in the corner with a band or whatever, like have at it, do your thing. We could have a day like that as well too. Because honestly, like some of that, like we talked about a little bit yesterday. For anyone who doesn't know, we had Tom Purvis in the last 3 days, and so we were discussing everything training under the sun, and obviously not dismissing things that like somebody individually likes, something that feels good. All that stuff can have a place in programming because you don't have to necessarily prove everything is perfect on paper. You know, things that people like that produce positive feedback obviously should be programmed as well too. So that's kind of my thoughts. So far, so good?
I like it.
We might as well make it on a 7-day, like I said, if nothing else. I don't know why I put that there. There's only one W. But just for, like I said, if no other reason, just to keep on par with our schedule. But if for some reason we're trying to do stuff and it really doesn't work, I'm never opposed to making something like a 6-day rotation, 8-day rotation, 9-day rotation, whatever. But I don't think we really have to do that for any reason. So I'm trying to think if we want to have like a big pattern every single day. I mean, honestly, what do you like better? Obviously, I know you like, what are some of your favorite movements?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Not your question.
Back squat, hack squat, leg press, split squats, my favorite, lunges, walking lunges, the reverse glute kickbacks on the Smith.
Oh yeah, those ones. Yeah.
That one.
Back squat, hack squat.
Hip thrusts.
Okay.
Step ups are really good too. I don't like deadlifts. I don't connect well with deadlifts.
Okay. We can always just mess around with them somewhere.
Okay.
So the thing that we'll mess around, we'll keep apart for sure. So we'll do, I think we'll have over here, I'm just gonna write movements somewhere to start. Back squats. We like thrust. Those can be in lots of places.
Yeah. But we're gonna add some, right?
No, this is it. Just one exercise a day. I'm just kidding. Wait, is that it? No, so this is the way I'm thinking about this, and I'm not joking on this. This will probably all change for tomorrow. So we'll do this one while I'm originally just putting a bunch of shit down as it comes out of my brain, and then we'll clean it up and make it all pretty, and then we'll both say, does this sound like a pretty good place to start? And then we'll start, and then after a week it'll change. After 2 weeks it'll probably change, and after 3 weeks we'll have something finalized. So we'll all get to see that process of what this looks like. So my thought process first is like, what are your favorite movements? Some of the things we want to keep in. And so because back squats and hack squats are so big and similar, I was like, well, let's put them away. And I'm gonna put a back squat makes more sense in my brain for a glute day. A hack squat makes much more sense for a quad day, so let's put them here. Almost nowhere, even heavy thrusts aren't really that crazy taxing. So I don't really have to keep them apart from everything, but if I'm gonna look at that kind of as a pattern, and I'm gonna do them like really heavy one day, we might as well put them here, because we'll probably do some sort of thrust on these days as well too, maybe, thrust, bridge, whatever. But maybe this will be the heavy one. I might actually put hams first on this day or something for hams, just so we really give hamstrings priority. And then, but having a heavy hamstring before a heavy thrust won't take anything away from your thrust. So that's kind of just how I'm putting that stuff out there together. Because if these are the movements we want, let's put them apart. And then the orders of this might change and all that stuff. I'm just writing it down as we go along. What else did we say that you like? Someone's gonna yell at me. So there's a thing on this one. So she's not great at RDLs. And doesn't like them a whole lot, or whatever we use in practice. So part of this is, in some ways, the worst place to practice them is at the end of a day. So we might actually sometimes at the beginning of that day just practice to warm up and just work on connecting well with the movement. And then in a fatigue state, we'll just see what we can carry over. So I want to do it at the end as well too, because the goal with these isn't to actually really use any significant load that could actually cause issues from disconnect from holding onto a heavy bar to try and get to the hips. So we might practice on this day fresh and then put them in when you're actually, again, everything basically in your lower body is already fatigued. So if we are doing them, we can do slightly heavier, maybe get a little bit of stimulus from them while we're just figuring them out. And if these never really feel good, guess you don't have to do any deadlift variation to have great glutes. Blasphemy! Ah! All right, so we got back squats on here. Probably do a thrust in here as well too. You pretty much just like doing them. We do any variations in that much, or just been pretty much just the Smith? Did you ever do them? I mean, just on the
Like a free weight?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like where the thrust is on a bench, a bridge is on with your back on the floor, or just any other variations.
Okay, it could be back on the floor,
Uh-huh.
or the one on the Smith,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like I connect better when I'm doing it on the Smith.
Okay.
And with a barbell, I feel like if I were to load more plates on,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fatigue happening from, you know?
Yeah. So Smith generally is your favorite.
Yeah, because I just start from the
Maybe
top.
we'll do another thrust here as well. I feel like we're almost getting somewhere, maybe.
I honestly like it.
Yeah, so far so good, I think.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to stare at it a little bit longer. Sorry for all this awkward silence, everyone, of me staring at the board. This is how it works. I just stare at things for a while. And I'm gonna stare at it longer, and I'm not gonna like something eventually. So let's go. So we got walking lunges over there. Do I have everything I want for quads? So we've got a hack, we've got a leg extension, got a leg press. I think I want a leg. We got a leg press in there. Glutes. This is glutes and hams. We've got lying leg curl there, if you want.
What is a fun day?
The fun day. It's where you get to do all this stuff that you feel like doing, so you get some leeway on that as well too. So what I'll probably do is, this will be the day that we'll program. I'll think about what we want to do on this, like some stuff like more like some single leg stuff, maybe some banded stuff, some adduction, abduction.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, this could be a day as well too. One, if you wanted to change the scenery, go to a gym that actually has like an adduction machine, and add abduction machine would be very nice. Because I like some banded stuff, obviously for abduction. Anything else for adduction that's not a machine is pretty much a waste of time. So maybe that'll be some of that stuff. This will be obviously good for like MI40 this day too, because I'll probably have like a prowler on this day as well, do some prowler pushes. So probably some adduction, abduction, single leg RDL stuff, prowler stuff. And then if you're in a weird mood, you could do some curls and press downs. You can even do arms on this day.
Yeah, let's do
a couple.
arms. I like arms.
It's a fun day. Anything goes. All right. So we'll write that down when I didn't write all this mess over on the way. So we'll do, and then what do we do for we generally have Wednesdays off, so maybe we'll try and leave that off. And then I'll give you, but I think I'll probably for the most part have you, like that'll be something that you're just gonna have to have, because I honestly don't think you're gonna need maybe more than one.
I think one's enough.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
To be honest.
Well, honestly, because the thing we'll do, why I think this will be enough, is one full off day will be good. And on these days, I might not even have, so this might be the only day that you actually have extra lower body. Okay. So for a change, you'll actually have 3 full days off of lower body.
Okay.
And then if you really want to, I mean, these might be like optional, like you can almost always do prowler any day. So if you're like, I really just want some blood in my lower body, I'll be like, go out in the prowler and have at it. But I think that actually kind of works. So, and then delts and back and all that kind of stuff is easy. So I'll probably do, so delts and calves. We'll actually go cable. We'll go side delt. I think we got most of it.
Yeah. Looks really good.
So for everybody, just kind of obviously, we didn't rehearse this. This was obviously, I just want to give everybody like a real look at where were we at, where were we before, or where were we before. And again, some of the premise of that, again, the program we were talking about as well, it worked. In some capacity it worked, put on muscle, look the way that you want to look. And then I'm kind of guessing on some other stuff where I think recovery probably has been maybe on permanent catch up. And even some of that as we were going through might have been just excessive. If nothing else, just even the total volume of the program. So this is just basically the very first idea of like, how do we fit in the stuff that I think is probably a good idea, the stuff that she wants to do. Make sure we're having a balance of both as far as obviously all of her favorite movements are in there. We have days that have kind of some priorities for different stuff. And then we can kind of incorporate again some stuff she likes to do, a little bit more upper body, a little bit more delts. And then the next thing after this point, I'll figure out a little bit of volume. So what are we going to do for volume? And I'll have my idea of what I think would probably be a good place to start, where she already was, and probably somewhere in the middle. Because especially to start, I think honestly having a little bit of just extra recovery will have you in a good place, kind of get your body fresh, and actually get to see, just compare the difference. It's like, okay, I'm doing this as opposed to that, and see if your body just as a result of that starts to feel better. So I'll be writing in a bunch of specifics on this as far as how many actual working sets on each. I'm not gonna, the stuff that I generally don't write in programs almost at any point in time anymore is rest. So in general, like I'll just yell at her if she's in here and going too fast. The longer the rest, the better. For big stuff, so obviously almost the entire first part of the program. So if it's big, back squat, thrust, step up, at least 2 minutes between working sets, if not. And then honestly, most people, once you actually work really hard, and especially if you're logging things and trying to track, if you go too fast, you're not able to do that anyway. So longer rest. And then for little stuff, obviously, then it's not as big of a deal. So if we're doing some kickbacks, or especially for delts and things like that, might not need a full 2 minutes, obviously, between like a raise or something along those lines. So some of that stuff, again, is a little bit less important, in my opinion. But we'll write all that down and figure it all out as well, too. And then, like I said, then we'll implement, start doing all this. We'll see if it works or if things don't work well, and adjust as we go. Good?
Awesome.
Sweet. The end.